Regina's in the hospital. She needs a blood transfusion. Come to Hagen General now. Where are you? You are 15 minutes late. If you are unhappy about the price, it's been upped to $100,000. Check your bank account. Daria Miller. I expect your presence at the hospital within the next 20 minutes. A deal's a deal. Daria scrolled through the messages with a sneer, her knuckles turning white. Instead of texts from her husband, which these actually were, they sounded more like orders issued to an underling by a hard taskmaster, which summed up her relationship with Micah perfectly. Her the subordinate, him the superior. When he gave instructions, Micah Kavanaugh expected to be obeyed without question or delay. The fact that Daria had already given blood 3 times in just as many weeks was a trifling detail he couldn't be bothered to remember. Or care. Suck it up. A deal's a deal. She could almost hear him as if he were right there in the room, looking down his aquiline nose at her. Daria shivered, rubbed her arms. Dizziness, nausea, and cold sweat were common symptoms after giving too much blood in too short a time. She had to wear wide bell sleeves to prevent chafing of the bruises where they'd stuck the giant needle into the crook of her arm. Repeatedly, Micah didn't notice the bruises, of course. In fact, he'd rarely, if ever, touched her when they were in the same room. When he wasn't busy running his business empire, he spent his time by the side of another woman, Regina Fisher. The exact nature of their relationship remained a cause for much speculation. But Daria never confronted Micah about it. She was just the wife, after all, a nominal one. At that, Micah and Daria maintained separate bedrooms, exchanged perfunctory greetings when their paths crossed, and could go days without talking to each other. When he did reach out, it was mostly for the sake of Regina. Daria happened to share the same extremely rare blood type as Micah's alleged mistress. AB negative. In fact, her blood was the only reason Micah agreed to marry her 3 years ago. Regina needed a blood transfusion. Back then, just like she needed one right now. Less than 1% of the country's population had AB-negative blood, and hospital blood banks were perpetually understocked. You want me to marry you? In the hospital corridor stinking of antiseptic and someone else's blood, Micah stared fixedly at the girl who dared to use Regina's medical condition to blackmail him. Heart in mouth, Daria nodded. Fine, but only if you agree to become a blood donor for Regina, 24/7. If and when she needs it, you are to make yourself available. No questions asked, no backing out for any reason. Monetary compensation can be arranged. Daria had jumped at the offer, thinking it was the deal of a lifetime. How naive she had been. She swiped away the latest message from her husband. No doubt another sternly worded reminder, demanding her to hustle her ass down to Hagen General. She tapped on her phone, brought up a photo. It was a candid shot, sent anonymously. Even sleeping, Micah looked incredibly, ridiculously handsome. His face was carved by the loving hands of angels. On a day they were feeling particularly generous. His mouth, though thin-lipped, was exquisite and made for kissing. Not that Daria ever had the occasion to taste it. His eyes, the color of flawless brown topaz, were piercing and commanded attention. His long, thick lashes were the same raven black as his short hair, cut with military precision, and he had a jawline most men were willing to go under the knife for. Daria had fallen for him the moment she saw that face. Her heart still did a nervous flutter every time she set eyes on him. They didn't share a bed, but from the few times she caught him coming out of a shower, wearing just a towel wrapped loosely around his waist, she knew there was a powerfully built body hidden underneath that crisp shirt and meticulously buttoned-up suit jacket. Just like the one he was wearing in the candid shot, But that wasn't what caused Daria to stare at the photo for 10 minutes straight. It was Regina's head, snuggled against Micah's broad shoulder. He was reclining in a deep maroon armchair, his long legs spread out in front of him, hands folded neatly over his lap, eyes closed. Regina appeared to be sleeping as well, though a corner of her mouth was curved upwards. The smirk also gave away the identity of the anonymous sender. Who else could it be but Regina? It would also explain the smug, gloating tone in the message accompanying the photo. Look how well matched they are. You should bow out. Prince Charming deserves to be with a real princess, not the chambermaid. Daria turned on the front-facing camera, checked out her reflection, decided that maybe, just maybe, Regina had a point. She was by no means ugly, but persistent blood loss had drained her cheeks and lips of all color. Constant lack of sleep gave her the hollow-eyed, sallow-skinned look of a malnourished anemic. Was that why Micah never spared her a second glance? Was Regina, of the bedroom eyes and bee-stung lips, his preferred type? Daria touched Micah's face on screen. Finally made up her mind. She had given herself 3 years to try to win his heart. She knew he saw her as just a stranger who exploited an unfortunate situation. Essentially, he'd married her under duress, which was why she swallowed her pride, of which there was a considerable amount packed away. The memory of a privileged life, learned to play the role of a biddable wife and dutiful daughter-in-law. She sucked up to his snobbish family, abased herself in front of his friends, did all the things the Housewife magazine suggested. She'd hoped he would eventually see that although her entry into his life had been abrupt and calculated, her feelings for him were genuine. Still, he never warmed up to her. In all 3 years, the number of times they'd had something resembling a friendly conversation could be counted on the fingers of one hand. In contrast, Micah's text requesting Daria to show up at the hospital, with sleeves rolled up and a vein picked out, had flooded her WhatsApp inbox. Bit by bit, message by message, he'd chipped away at the wall she built around herself to shield her from the ugly, crushing reality. He didn't love her. Never did. Never would. She saw their marriage as a way to share a life with the man she loved. He probably saw it as a transaction. A deal's a deal, he'd often say. Regina's photo was the wrecking ball that finally brought the entire wall crumbling down. Daria rose to her feet, closed her eyes to wait for the dizzy spell to pass, tried to ignore the dull ache in her heart. She was normally a resolute sort. Still, to write off 3 years of her life, to acknowledge they had been an abject failure, it was a bitter pill to swallow. Daria's eyes were red-rimmed, but remained dry. She would not cry. She stood there a moment, collecting her thoughts and emotions. The front door of the house burst open. Micah, tall and elegant in a charcoal gray suit, strode in on his long legs. Annoyance flickered in his eyes when he saw her in the living room. It intensified into fury when he noted the iPhone clutched in her hand. If your phone's working, why didn't you answer my texts or calls? Daria took in his expression, committed his striking features to memory. This would probably be the last time they stood this close together. Micah, a man of action, grabbed her wrist, started moving towards the door. You are needed at the hospital, pronto. I know. Daria dug in her heels, had to hold on to the sofa's headrest to prevent herself from being dragged off. Then why aren't you moving? Micah blew out an impatient breath. I'll go to the hospital. I'll give blood, but there's one thing I need from you first. Money. It's already been transferred into your account. Micah thrust both hands into his pockets. Check it. It's not about the money. Then, what is it? Get to the point We are wasting time here. I want a divorce. Daria's icy tone matched his. Carefully, she made her face blank, tried to hide the anguish in her voice. Micah took a second, more careful look at his wife. He knew his hearing worked fine, but he wasn't so sure of it for a brief moment. Did she just ask for a divorce? Wasn't she the one who coerced him into a marriage in the first place? What changed? He spoke his mind. I need an explanation. I don't have one. If you want me to give blood to Regina, that's the condition. That wasn't the deal we agreed on. I know. I broke my word, sue me. She shrugged. Surprise flitted across his face. Micah had never seen his wife so confrontational. She appeared to be calm, but he detected what might be anger smoldering in her big, round, bloodshot eyes. Yet, in his mind, there was no logical reason for her to be mad. Things were what they had always been. An idea popped into his head. Could this be one of those mood swings women were famous for during their time of the month? A friend once told Micah, likely from his personal experience, that there was simply no reasoning with a woman being visited by Aunt Flo. Micah considered it politic to go along with her suggestion for now. Maybe she would cool down in a couple of days and backpedal, which would give him the upper hand in the negotiation of their new deal. Okay, he nodded. Have you drawn up the papers? No. Daria hadn't expected him to agree to it so quickly, but then he had always been the decisive sort. I'll print out a sample divorce settlement agreement. We'll both sign it. Mail it to family court. Since it's going to be a no-fault divorce, I assume it'll be approved by the court fairly quickly. He was already moving towards the winding staircase. His study was located on the second floor. In a daze, Daria waited for him to come back down with 2 printed copies of the agreement. Then signed both. As Micah put down his name on the dotted line, a vague feeling of unease niggled at the back of his mind. But he pushed it aside. Done. Micah slid 1 copy into a manila envelope, sealed it. I'll drop this off at the post office on the way to the hospital. Let's go. Daria stuffed the other copy into her purse, fought to keep down the lump rising at the back of her throat. He'd made it seem so easy. Had he been waiting a long time for this moment? She followed him out of the house, into his Bugatti La Voiture Noire, stared out the window during the entire ride. Micah glanced at her from time to time, rubbed at the tension between his brows, battled the urge to second-guess his decision to sign the divorce papers. Was her impetuosity really triggered by PMS? Would things really go back to normal after 2 days? He hoped so. Neither of them said a word until the car pulled up outside Hagen General. Regina was sitting up in the single bed of the VIP private room Micah booked for her, looking fragile, like a delicate flower. A doctor in a white lab coat was sitting in a chair nearby, dozing off. Regina's eyes lit up when she saw Micah enter the room. But her face fell as Daria stepped inside. Daria didn't miss the flash of resentment in those beautiful, coal-lined eyes. Micah, I told you, I'm fine. Regina complained to him in a tone of familiar intimacy. You didn't have to bring Daria all the way here. She covered her mouth with a hand, coughed daintily. She's already here, might as well be useful. Micah turned to Daria. Roll up your sleeve. Daria moved up to the bed, stood right in front of Regina. The latter offered a weak smile. Daria, thank you for coming. Aya! She screeched out a pained cry as Daria ripped off the white gauze wrapped around her forehead. What are you doing? Both Micah and Regina demanded in unison. Are you out of your mind? Micah yanked Daria back before she could do more damage. Regina recovered quickly. Irritation morphed into bafflement as she worked some hurt into her voice. Daria, I don't understand. Why did you? Daria held up the length of pristine, white gauze. No blood. Micah knitted his brows. Daria pointed to Regina's exposed forehead. No wound. Not even a scratch. She turned to Micah. You said she got into an accident, banged up her head pretty bad, lost a lot of blood. She sneered. Must be invisible blood. Micah whirled towards the doctor. What's going on? You diagnosed head trauma. Ordered a transfusion. Dr. Patel, as his name tag pinned above the left breast pocket indicated, slowly rose to his feet. He was sweating, visibly. I simply did as instructed. Who instructed you? Micah dropped the volume of his voice up the intimidation level. You did, Mr. Kavanaugh. The doctor trained his eyes on the floor. When did I ask you to fake a diagnosis? Daria leaned against a wall, crossed her arms, watched the drama unfold with disinterest. Micah caught amused derision in her fleeting smile. He balled his hands into fists, stared a hole through the doctor's balding pate. Miss Fisher said. Speak up, Micah bellowed. She told us you wanted the diagnosis to be severe, so Miss Miller would have to give blood. The doctor blurted. He cast an apologetic glance at Regina. Sorry, Micah. Don't listen to him. Regina sat up straighter, anxious. He's making this up. Micah raised an arm, palm out. A gesture for silence. Regina, shut up. Explain. Micah looked pointedly at the doctor. Every time before Miss Fisher comes to the hospital, she would give me a heads up, make sure I know what diagnosis to give, get our story straight. It's normally some kind of injury that would require a blood transfusion. And you just went along with it. The doctor had the decency to look ashamed. She said she would have my job if I didn't fall in line. And, since Regina didn't actually need the blood, he could sell it off on the black market. AB negative was as rare as it could get. Pricier than gold. He had been making a nice little pile of cash on the side, and thought it was a mutually beneficial arrangement, though. To be honest, he wasn't sure what benefit Miss Fisher was getting out of it. Micah. Regina wrung her hands. I can explain. Since her fake wound was exposed, some color had magically returned to her pale cheeks. To give you more time to cook up a plausible story, Daria interjected. Why don't I show him this? You might as well concoct something that explains both the fake wound and the photo. She tapped a few keys on her screen, looked up at Micah. I just sent you a photo, annotated. Micah stared at his own face on screen. The background of the candid shot looked familiar. What was unfamiliar was Regina's face pressed up against his. Your company has a pretty decent tech department, Daria said casually. You can probably get a couple of your people to verify if the photo's doctored and to trace its sender. Who sent you this? Micah raised his head. That's for you to find out, and for her to explain. Daria flashed Regina a feral smile. By the way, the deal I made with him has been revoked. You are going to have to find someone else to suck blood from. She sauntered out of the ward, leaving the past 3 years of her life behind. Dr. Patel seized the opportunity to slink off. Micah gripped his phone. The comment about Prince Charming and the chambermaid stung. He'd never thought of Daria as a maid. In fact, he'd never thought of her, period. The snarky comment added to the sinking feeling in his stomach. Daria hadn't asked for the divorce on the spur of the moment. The photo was probably the last straw. She was really leaving him, permanently. A sharp pang stabbed at his heart. He spun towards the door. Daria! Regina chose this moment to fall off the bed. Her knees hit the vinyl floor. With an audible thud, she clutched at her chest. I don't feel so well. Micah paused, hesitated briefly, then turned back. What's wrong? I feel faint. Her face was scrunched up in pain. I think I'm going to pass out. I'll go get the doctor. No. Don't leave me, please. She gripped his arm, sobbed. I miss Lucian. I wish he were here. Micah froze. His army buddy's final moments flashed across his mind. Out of the corner of her eye, Regina caught the mournful look on Micah's face and hid a satisfied smile. To make sure he stayed with her, she held her breath until she successfully passed out. Daria stopped in front of the lift, pressed the call button, strained her ears, but heard no hurried footsteps coming down the hallway towards her. She stretched her lips into a bitter smile. The man she'd been married to for 3 years couldn't even take a moment to say goodbye. She wondered if that was more of a reflection on his lack of sentimentality, or on her failure to etch out even a tiny corner of existence in his heart. He'd probably already dismissed her from his mind and was on the hunt for the next blood donor. Daria stepped into the lift. The doors slid shut. She came out into the underground car park. Micah's black Bugatti was parked in its reserved spot. She walked past it without a backward glance, stopped in front of a Rolls-Royce Phantom in smoky quartz. Bowed her head. The rear left window of the Rolls-Royce rolled down soundlessly. Avery McAllister's handsome, dark-eyed face peered out. Get in! The door lock popped open. Daria hunched her shoulders, climbed into the back seat obediently. She laid her head on the lap of her big brother, and finally allowed the tears to come. There. Avery stroked her back the way he might soothe a kitten. At a nod from him, the chauffeur quietly started the car. I was so stupid, Daria sobbed. So stupid and blind. We all make mistakes, honey. I knew you'd come to your senses eventually. Just didn't expect it would take 3 years, he thought. Daria wiped her tears on her big brother's tailored trousers, straightened up. Thank you for coming to pick me up. I hope I didn't pull you out of an important meeting. As the oldest son of the McAllister family, Avery was currently serving as president of the family business. The Paragon Group had its humble start in retail and, through 4 generations, gradually expanded to have a finger in every pie worth having. It had offices in over 20 cities, 6 countries. Avery cut short an acquisitions meeting this morning after he received a long-awaited text from his sister. Anything for my princess, Dolly. Don't call me that, she protested. It makes me sound like a 3-year-old with a Barbie doll, which, at one point in time, you were. That was like decades ago. Avery just patted her head, smiled indulgently at his kid sister. And, thanks for tracing the photo, for me. It just took a couple of calls. With the pat of his thumb, Avery wiped away the tears on Daria's cheeks. I've missed you. The simple brotherly act of affection brought on a fresh wave of tears. As have I, Dolly. We've all missed you. Daria threw herself into her brother's arms again. I've been such a fool. You told me not to do it. Dad told me not to do it. Everyone else told me not to do it. I should have listened. Better late than never, Avery said mildly. So I take it you've severed ties with the Kavanaugh man. Daria nodded. The divorce papers are making their way to the courthouse as we speak. So you are no longer Daria Miller. That name's as good as dead and buried now. I'm back to being Daria McAllister. Welcome back, princess. He kissed her forehead, shook his head as he took in her pallid face and puffy eyes. I've said this before, and I think it bears repeating. He's not good enough for you, Dolly. You deserve so much better. I know that now. She touched the crook of her left arm, which still throbbed painfully now and then. Found out to my cost. You've always been a hard-headed one. Avery tapped a fingertip against her nose. Just had to find out for yourself. You've got a blind spot when it comes to that Kavanaugh man. The blinkers are off now. I promise, no more stubborn Dolly. From now onwards, I'm going to be smart Dolly. The one who listens to her family and makes smart, informed decisions. Does that start with you? Returning to the fold? You mean back to the company? Daria pouted. I've just ended a long, soul-crushing relationship. I thought I'd earned a couple of days to sulk and wallow in self-pity. Work is the best antidote to sorrow, honey, and I know you actually believe that. Daria shook her head, amazed. Avery was the workaholic in the family, and the worrier. Though Avery kept his promise and stayed away from Daria for the past 3 years, he'd been keeping tabs on her remotely, as big brothers were wont to do. He didn't approve of her decision to assume an indigent identity in order to get close to Micah Kavanaugh. In the metropolis of Hagen, the McAllisters were the uncrowned royalty. Daria was supposed to live the life of a princess, not a pauper. She should have people wait on her hand and foot, not the other way around. But Daria was young and a little naive back then. She'd made an error of judgment, mistakenly believed Micah Kavanaugh was what she wanted, was willing to throw away everything she owned to go after her dream. The more her family objected, the more she dug in her heels, until she practically ran away from home and started living under a different name. Luckily, that rebellious phase had finally passed. Avery smiled as he thought of the dozen ways he had in mind to celebrate his kid sister's return. Dad would be thrilled. Daria looked out the tinted window as the car left the hospital. She'd said goodbye to her failed marriage. It was time to get back to her life. You are right, she declared. Work might actually help, but first, a celebration. Avery handed her a tablet. Pick a restaurant. Your treat. My treat. Daria planted a kiss on her brother's clean-shaven cheek. Thanks, Ty. Micah came out of the ward after a team of doctors. Patel excluded examined Regina and assured him she'd just passed out. He pulled out his phone, stared at the name on screen, drummed a finger against his pant leg. Finally hit call. Sorry, the number you have dialed is unavailable. Please try again later. He called a different number. Issued instructions. Elliot reported back 15 minutes later. Sorry, boss. We can't find any sign of Miss Miller on the premises. The assistant's use of Daria's surname suddenly irked Micah. But then, he was the one who ordered his men not to address her as Mrs. Kavanaugh. Their marriage had simply been another kind of transaction. Deals came to an end. Contracts expired. So, why should he get agitated now? Micah wasn't one to indulge in excessive contemplation. All he knew was, he didn't want Daria to just disappear on him like that. So, he had to find her. When Micah married Daria 3 years ago, she was penniless, jobless. He wasn't even sure if she'd finished college or ever gone to one. Come to think of it, he also had no idea where she'd been living before he brought her home. She became a full-time housewife, had 0 marketable skills. She didn't ask for anything during the divorce. Just walked out of the house with the clothes on her back. How was she supposed to fend for herself now? What was she going to live on? Micah ran through several scenarios in his mind. He turned to Elliot. Get in touch with the hospital director. I want a copy of the surveillance footage for the last hour, covering this floor and the car park. Also send 2 men to my house. Call me if they find Daria there. Yes, boss. Tend. 20. Daria started fidgeting as the Rolls-Royce pulled into the circular driveway in front of the 5-story house, perched atop a hill. Grand and leafy trees, some of which were 100 years old, stood silently like sentries, guarding the front entrance, welcoming her home. Avery got out, held open the door for her. Daria climbed out, walked past green lawns and flowering shrubs on both sides, jogged up the stone steps, paused at the threshold. Go on. Avery gave her a bolstering pat on the shoulder. She stepped into the spacious living room, done up in beige with splashes of soft blue. Tall, arched windows let in plenty of natural light. Matthias McAllister set down the newspaper he'd been pretending to read, slowly got to his feet, faced his only daughter, worked up a mildly disapproving look. So, you finally decided to end your rebellion and come home. Daria launched herself into her father's arms and burst into tears. Matthias sighed, stroked her back in the same way Avery had done. You didn't even let me finish my speech. I had a whole thing prepared. Daria smiled through her tears. You can still give me the lecture. I'm all ears. Matthias pulled back to study his daughter's face, shook his head. Looks like you've suffered enough. Anger flashed across his eyes. Not directed at Daria. Of course, he was thinking about Micah. Like Avery, he had used his own resources to monitor Daria's situation, discreetly, and from a distance, of course. The more he learned about the kind of life she led in the Kavanaugh household, the more he grew to despise the man his daughter had offered her heart to. If not for his promise to her, he'd have taught a lesson to that unfeeling, heartless bastard years ago. Now that Daria had come home, Matthias would wait an appropriate amount of time, just to make sure she had truly gotten over the man and moved on. Then he would set things in motion. Within 3 months, Micah, along with every other Kavanaugh, would be out on the street. They'd be lucky to get a job washing dishes. I'm sorry, Daddy. Guilt overwhelmed her as she thought of what she'd put her father through. Running away from home for 3 years and cutting off all contact. I suppose you've learned your lesson. I have. All done with that Kavanaugh man. All done. Matthias thought for a while. Plenty more fish in the sea, honey. Daria smiled. I know, Daddy. Avery perched on the arm of a sofa. I've booked a private room at Lutter and Wagner, 8 o'clock reservation. Good. Matthias seemed to have just realized his eldest son was also in the room. Aren't you supposed to be at work? I took the day off. Avery grinned, which, as the boss, I'm entitled to. I wouldn't miss Dolly's homecoming for the world, but now that your job's done, don't you think it's time to head back to the office? The company's not going to run itself, you know. Speaking of, Dolly has agreed to come work at the company. We could go over the plan at dinner. Well now, that's a pleasant surprise. Before she left 3 years ago, Matthias had been pushing for Daria to take a management position at the Paragon Group. She had a good head for figures, was ruthless at the negotiating table, but still needed some honing in the area of strategic planning. Matthias hoped to groom his youngest daughter to eventually take the helm of the entire group. Daria nodded. I'm ready to work. She had wasted 3 years in a foolish pursuit of an unrealistic romance. Now that she'd had her heart thoroughly broken, it was time to throw herself into work. Atta girl. But work can wait till tomorrow. Come, let me show you to your old room. Matthias took her by the hand, steered her towards the spiraling central staircase. Billinger kept everything as it was. How's Uncle Bill? Daria was fond of the long-serving butler. Tall, gangly, with a mind like a steel trap, he was more a member of the family than an employee. He's fine, Just ran out for groceries. He knows how much you like those ruby Roman grapes. Daria bounded into her old bedroom, flung herself onto the super Caesar-sized bed, inhaled the lavender scent of the freshly laundered sheets, then hugged Poe, her favorite childhood stuffed toy in the shape of a giant panda. Uncle Bill never missed a trick. You should take a nap, Matthias said from the doorway. I'll come and get you when it's time to go out for dinner. Okay, thanks, Daddy. Matthias stood there and waited for Daria's eyes to close before he pulled the door shut. Gently, Avery was waiting for him downstairs. Matthias sat down, folded both hands over his lap. Now, tell me what you found about the Kavanaughs. I don't want the publicity stuff. I want the dirt. Avery brought up a passcoded file on his tablet, scanned it to refresh his memory. We can start with a woman called Regina Fisher. After a 3-hour dinner, Matthias tucked Daria in bed, then headed into his study, where he went over Avery's plan again. The first item on the agenda was a grand banquet to welcome Daria home and introduce her to the world. Make sure the Kavanaughs get invited, Matthias reminded his son. Of course. Avery exchanged a fearsome smile with his father. 2 minutes before 6 o'clock the next morning, Daria was jolted awake by the thundering roar of a powerful engine in the driveway. 5 minutes later, the door to her bedroom banged open. Dolly, Bianca Zimmerman, charged into the room, jumped into bed where Daria was just sitting up, and crushed her best friend in a fierce bear hug. Daria struggled to suck in air as her face was buried between the mounds of Bianca's impressive breasts. Can't breathe. Bianca pulled back, grabbed Daria's shoulders, ran her long-lashed hazel eyes over Daria's sleep-creased face. You look like hell, and I've missed you too, bestie. Daria smiled. How did you know I was back? Uncle Bill texted me. She stabbed a pink-nailed finger at Daria's chest, which is something you should have done the minute you kicked that Kavanaugh man to the curb. I didn't exactly kick anyone. I just kind of walked out. Let me see it. See what? The divorce papers. I have to see them to believe it's true. All right, Daria obliged, dug out the paper from her purse on the nightstand. Here. Bianca sat on the bed, cross-legged, perused the document, nodded sagely. Looks to be in order. She tossed it aside, hugged Daria again. So you are finally back. I am. The halo finally wore off, huh? You got to see his true colors. I did. Daria yawned, stretched. 3 years ago, Bianca was one of the most vociferous opponents to Daria's idea of marrying Micah Kavanaugh. Under an assumed name, she did her best to talk Daria out of it, said it could be just a crush. But Daria, stubborn and madly in love, refused to listen. Good riddance. Bianca walked over to the closet, started picking out an outfit for Daria. I mean, I get that the man's handsome as sin and has a killer bod. Easy to see how girls would drool all over him, but like I told you, you should have just slept with him. Get it out of your system, then move on. You didn't have to marry him. I know. Daria padded into the bathroom, left the door open as she brushed her teeth. Bianca came in after her, held up the white Dion Lee mini dress to Daria, shook her head. You need new clothes, you've lost weight. She strolled out, returned 2 minutes later carrying a crushed velvet mini dress and a pair of knee-high boots. We should celebrate. Let's go to Pangea party time. Daria raised an eyebrow. I'm not going clubbing at 6 o'clock in the morning. Come on. You are young, gorgeous, rich, and finally single time to get out there. Party it up and scope out the fish in the sea, so to speak. Daria gargled, spat, laughed. My dad said the same thing to me last night. Not the party thing, the fish thing. Bianca tapped a finger to her temple. Great minds think alike. I may not be in the mood to party just yet, but I could use your help. Sure. What is it? Daria walked to the closet, picked out a twist-back rib-knit midi dress, shimmied into it. I need to get the certificate of final judgment from the family court. To make the divorce official, it's probably already been mailed to the Kavanaugh house. And I've a couple of things I need to pick up. So you want to go back to the lion's den? Bianca frowned. Just to get my things. Won't take more than 5 minutes. Okay. I'll go with you. And if your ex-husband happens to be there, I'll help you kick his well-toned ass. After a quick breakfast, Daria climbed into the passenger seat of Bianca's canary yellow Porsche 911 Carrera 4S, gave her directions to Micah's house, which was all the way across town. Almost 2 full hours later, the car zipped into Hyacinth Park, an exclusive gated community. One of the security guards took down their names, gave directions for guest parking. Daria led the way to the 3-story house, where she'd spent her last 3 years. Micah wasn't there, but Judy Kavanaugh was. Daria's pugnacious ex-mother-in-law stood on the front steps, arms akimbo. She rolled her eyes unceremoniously at Daria. Where the hell have you been all night? You didn't finish doing the dishes or the laundry. Her gaze flickered to Bianca, then back to Daria. Didn't I tell you not to bring the riff-raff into the house? Who are you calling riff-raff? Bianca rolled up her metaphorical sleeves and shifted into combat mode. Old hag. Judy's face flushed scarlet. What did you say? So you are not just old, ugly, and mean, you are also hard of hearing. Bianca smirked. Must be a side effect of aging. Daria made a heroic effort to hold back her laughter. She'd forgotten what a clever mouth her bestie had. Bianca wasn't done. She copied Judy's posture, gave a dismissive once-over to the manicured lawn and the ornately carved oak door, scrunched up her petite nose. What a dump! Judy's chest heaved. When confronted by someone smarter and meaner, she did what she always did. She backed off and picked on the weak. Judy rounded on Daria. Is this how you let your friend talk to your mother-in-law? No respect, no manners. And you wonder why Micah never looks twice at you. She pointed a red-nailed finger at Daria. I should never have allowed him to marry you. Luckily, he's finally come to his senses. My boy's going to divorce you. I heard. Judy crossed both arms across her ample bosom. Good riddance. Daria didn't react. Didn't want to waste time arguing with her. Over the past 3 years, Judy had said a lot worse to her, in a tone a lot meaner. To Judy Kavanaugh, no woman was ever good enough for her boy. Not even real royalty. I'm just here to pick up a few of my things. Daria started to move past Judy. You are not allowed to come in. Judy shot out an arm and gave her a forceful shove. Daria, caught off guard and off balance, stumbled and would have tumbled back down the steps if Bianca hadn't caught her in time. Bianca let out an enraged growl. This was the life her best friend had been living. This was the way Daria, the apple of every McAllister's eye, was treated. She waited for Daria to regain her balance, then bounded up the steps and pushed Judy. Hard. Ow! Judy staggered on her high heels, hit her back against the door, slid onto the floor. Bianca used a foot to nudge Judy's legs out of the way, pushed the door wide open, tilted her head at Daria. Come on, Daria Miller, help me up, right now. Judy thumped her fists on the floor in impotent rage. Or I'll tell Micah you let your low-born friend assault me. Daria was unmoved. She glanced down at Judy. Why should I help you? Judy had stood by and watched countless times as she let her daughter Felicia pick on Daria. Sometimes she'd even lend a hand. Daria stepped around her ex-mother-in-law into the lavishly decorated living room that could have been elegant, except for Judy's insistence on stuffing it with kitsch, knick-knacks, and gaudy ornaments. She picked up the express mail lying on the coffee table. The envelope was torn open, revealing a corner of the divorce certificate from the family court. She stuffed it into her purse, headed up the stairs, and came back down 5 minutes later. Pausing at the threshold, she turned, looked back at the marble floor shining under brilliant light cast by a trio of chandeliers. She used to scrub the floor with a mop and a bucket of water, which would always be ice cold in winter. Thinking back to the past 3 years with a clear head, she couldn't believe she'd allowed herself to be used like that, like an unpaid maid, a slave. "Let's go." She linked arms with Bianca, who'd been keeping a vigilant eye on Judy, who was still sitting on the floor like a petulant child. "About time." Bianca donned her black sunglasses. "I was getting bored. Let's blow." The flashy Porsche 911 zoomed through the open gates just as a black Bugatti rolled in. Micah jumped out of his car, sprinted up the steps when he saw Judy, trying to pick herself up from the floor. "Mum? What happened?" Judy leaned her considerable weight on the arms of her son, breathing heavily. "Your ex-wife just attacked me, Daria." Micah ran his eyes over his mother, noted no visible signs of injury. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine, but I want you to punish that woman. Sue her ass off. Put her name on a blacklist. Run her out of town if you can." "What did she do?" Micah helped her into the living room, eased her onto the sofa. "Do you want me to call a doctor?" "No. I told you I'm fine. I'll be better once you teach that impudent woman a lesson. She attacked you." Micah found that hard to believe. "Well, not her exactly, but one of her good-for-nothing friends did." Judy grabbed Micah's hand. "It's a good thing you divorced her. She's not fit to be your wife. She was here just now," Micah said. "Where did she go?" "How should I know?" Judy waved a hand, dismissive. "Nor do I care. She's no longer part of this family. She never should have been in the first place." Micah looked fixedly at his mother for a long time. Then he rose to his feet, turned, headed for the door. "Where are you going?" When he didn't answer, Judy raised her voice. "You are not going to look for that gold-digging hussy, are you?" Micah paused, then turned around slowly. He knew Judy used colorful language rather liberally when she got worked up. But he had never heard her talk about Daria that way. He wondered if she'd ever called Daria that to her face. Was that one of the reasons Daria left? Why didn't she tell him if Judy was being harsh to her? "Which reminds me," Judy slapped a hand on her thigh, "did you give her anything in the divorce? Tell me you didn't. I bet she asked for a big, fat settlement." "Micah, she didn't." Micah cut her off coldly. "She didn't ask for anything." He left the house before Judy could say more. In his car, Micah had just ended a call to Elliot, his assistant, when he saw his mother's name flash on screen. "Micah, the bitch lied!" Judy shouted into the phone, hysterical. "She said she wouldn't take anything. But that's because she'd already stolen what she wanted." Frowning, Micah pulled the phone away from his ear. "What are you talking about?" "The diamond ring in the safe. The Graf diamonds worth $2.5 million. She took it. You have to get it back." Micah recalled the ring with a 12-carat pink diamond stone and a band of rose gold. He had a matching wedding band, which he only wore once. Daria, in contrast, wore her ring like it was part of her skin. He couldn't remember a time he'd ever seen her without it, but she must have taken it off at some point. Otherwise, Judy wouldn't have known it was in the safe. Did Daria take it with her after the divorce? What did that mean? On the phone, Judy was still ranting. "She's a thief. Micah, call the police. We'll get her locked up." Micah moved his head back, rubbed at the tension between his brows. "It's her ring, her property. She has a right to take it. I'm not calling the police, neither should you." He hung up. Back in the house, Judy stared at the call-ended message on her iPhone and screamed. If Micah couldn't be bothered to do something about that thieving, disrespectful bitch, then she would have to take matters into her own hands. She was still reeling from the confrontation earlier. Daria Miller had always been such a meek, spineless weakling. Just because she was divorced from Micah didn't give her the right to thumb her nose at her ex-mother-in-law. It wasn't right. She had to be punished. Judy gulped down a big glass of Zinfandel and got to work. Bianca steered the car with one hand on the wheel and the other clenched into a fist on her lap. That woman, she said. Your ex-mother-in-law. She's a nasty piece of work. Daria couldn't disagree. Bianca shook her head. I still don't get how you managed to live under the roof with that woman for 3 years. 3 whole years. No amount of sheet-tearing sex with a stud muffin would have induced me to put up with that, not even if he's the sexiest man alive. Well, we all make mistakes, Daria said easily. And geez, look at the way she's dressed. Bianca clicked her tongue. Does she think getting wrapped up in all branded clothes makes her a member of the upper crust? You know how they say clothes make the woman. I think in her case that's wildly off the mark. Daria just smiled. She knew her friend wasn't the judgmental, snobbish type. The diatribe against Judy was just Bianca's way of showing moral support. Speaking of clothes, Bianca segued into the next topic effortlessly. We should go shopping. Pick out some outfits for your homecoming bash. Okay. Though Daria would much prefer to return to her big, warm bed, she'd barely caught 5 hours of sleep the previous night. She was obligated to return the favor. Bianca did her by accompanying her to Micah's house earlier. The 2 girlfriends went to brunch, then a hair salon, then a 6-hour shopping spree that netted them 3 dozen bags. Daria had missed this. Not the shopping, but the freedom. The simple pleasure of going out with a friend had been a luxury she wasn't allowed to keep while she was Daria Miller. Judy had a curfew: be home by 9 o'clock, or don't bother to come back at all. The more Daria thought back to the past 3 years, the more she realized her family and friends had been right. Marrying Micah was a big mistake. Avery was lounging on the sofa when she walked into the living room. You are home early. Daria went over to give her big brother a peck on the cheek. I thought Dad said you'd be away on a business trip for 2 days. Shouldn't you be out there, wheeling and dealing, buying up chunks of the country you don't already own? The trip ended early. Avery gave her an affectionate pat on the arm. I got you a present. Then he turned his head. Hello, Bianca. He smiled. Hello, Bianca stammered. It didn't escape Daria's notice that the usually confident and flamboyant Bianca was blushing. Pink rose in her cheeks, turning the sexy vixen into an adorable, bashful fangirl. Daria stood back, assessed the situation, wondered if there was something going on between her big brother and her best friend. Avery retrieved a big white shopping bag from the glass coffee table. For you, Dolly. Daria took the bag, peered inside expectantly. Her eyes lit up. Wow! She removed the limited edition Birkin in matte white, touched the clochette and the ribbon. I love it. Ooh! It will go so well with that Coach shearling aviator jacket you bought today. Bianca ogled the bag. This particular one's not even on the market yet, she sighed. I wish I had a big brother like yours, Dolly. Matthias McAllister had 4 children, 3 sons and a daughter. Daria was the youngest and everyone's favorite. Growing up, she was showered with love and gifts from the 4 most important men in her life, her father and her brothers. Sorry, he's all mine. Daria pulled in her brother for another peck, more enthusiastic this time. Thanks, Chief. Avery's sexy lips curved. He reached for another, smaller bag on the coffee table. "This is for you, Bianca." "For me," Bianca flustered, took the bag with both hands. "Oh, you didn't have to." Daria didn't think it was possible for a person to blush twice in just as many minutes. But Bianca did. Her face was flushed, an attractive shade of cherry blossom, as she took out a small glass container from the bag. It was a bottle of Cocoa Mademoiselle, with Bianca's name hand-engraved onto the bottle. "This is your preferred scent, if memory serves." Avery inclined his head. Daria watched in amazement as the shade of cherry blossom on her friend's cheeks deepened into vermilion. It is, thank you." Apparently, the stammer and the blush came as a package. Yup, definitely something going on here, Daria thought. She stroked her chin as she watched the interaction between her friend and her brother, and started to seriously consider the possibility of Bianca becoming her sister-in-law. She and Bianca were of the same age, which would make Avery 5 years older than Bianca. Not that big an age gap. Really, in her head, Daria began dreaming of a spring wedding. She had seen a dress earlier today that would be perfect for the bride. As for the theme, maybe they could make it an outdoor garden wedding. Ow! A knuckle tap to her forehead jolted her out of her reverie. "What did you do that for? Did you hear what I just said?" Avery shook his head. "Obviously not. I'm all ears." Daria sat down on the sofa with her chin up, back straight, knees pressed, the very picture of attention. Avery smiled. "Brian and Callan are overseas. They'll make arrangements to come back as soon as they can." "That's really not necessary. I know how busy their work can be." Daria missed her brothers, but she didn't want to disrupt their jam-packed schedules. "Nonsense. They want to see you. I'll let you know once they firm up their travel plans." Daria nodded. Meanwhile, Avery picked up a cardboard box on the coffee table. "More presents," Daria grinned. "You really shouldn't have." "And I didn't." Avery took out a thick stack of documents. "You are coming with me to the office tomorrow. Better study up, Dolly. You wouldn't want to attend the 7 o'clock board meeting unprepared." "Wait, what? Tomorrow?" Daria caught the documents with both hands and felt their heft. 7 o'clock, board meeting. I thought I was going to have another day or two to wallow." "You've wallowed long enough." Avery tousled her hair. "Time to get to work." The smile on Daria's face turned upside down. Slave driver. Despite her grumbling, she knew her big brother was right. The McAllisters owned the Paragon Group, but it didn't mean she could just waltz into a management position without getting pushback from the other board members. She was intimately familiar with most of the group's businesses, even while she was overseas, but she had been away for 3 years and needed to catch up. After a sumptuous dinner, Daria cracked her knuckles and was prepared to burn some serious midnight oil. Luckily, she had Bianca for company. Bloody hell, sons of bitches. Those backstabbing, slanderous pieces of shit. Daria poked her head out of the bathroom, a toothbrush in her mouth. "Who pissed in your nightcap?" Bianca brandished her iPad Air like a weapon. "Did you see the post by the Kavanaughs? I bet it's written by that bitch, Judy Kavanaugh. Wow, you really don't like her. How could I, when she smears your name in public like that?" Bianca tossed the tablet at Daria. "See for yourself. Daria Miller, Sticky Fingers." Daria read the title of the trending post. "Huh, it already has more than 100,000 views. I'm famous. Infamous is more like it." The indignant Bianca plopped herself down on the bed next to Daria. "How can they say that about you?" Daria clicked into the post, uploaded by the official account of Zenith, Micah's company. The article was short and to the point. Its author accused Daria Miller, the former Mrs. Kavanaugh, of making off with the 12-carat pink graph diamond wedding ring valued at $2.5 million. The last paragraph also intimated that she was to blame for the divorce. The post had gone viral in a couple of hours, partially because Zenith was one of the biggest companies in the Hagen metropolis, partially because Micah Kavanaugh used to top the list of most eligible bachelors before his low-key marriage to Daria Miller. A nobody. Netizens were having a field day. Some amateur sleuths had dug up Daria's Twitter and Instagram accounts and left plenty of heated comments. Most of them abusive. How can you not be mad? Bianca thumped her fist on the sheets. Oh, I am, believe me. The smile on Daria's face was a feral one, like that of a jungle cat before it was ready to pounce. She was furious at the accusation, especially since it was a trumped-up charge. When she walked away from her marriage with Micah, she'd walked away with nothing except the clothes on her back. Why would she want to take the ring, which would serve as a constant reminder of the pain, the disappointment, and the humiliation she'd lived through for the past 3 years? But she'd learned from her father and big brother that it was better to get even than get mad. Bianca rolled over in bed, pumped her legs in the air like she was kicking an invisible opponent. Aya, I'm so mad. Did that miser give you nothing during the divorce? Why are they making such a big deal over some chump change? After she was done with her tirade, sprinkled with a liberal dose of creative curses, she turned to Daria. What do you plan to do? You are not just going to take this crap, are you? Daria shrugged. I'm going to make a call. She dialed Avery's number, though he was likely in his room just 1 floor up. Chief, she said when Avery picked up after 1 ring and updated him on the post. The entertainment agency Callan gave me 4 years ago. Is it still under my name? Eminence, Avery said. Current CEO is Bradley Gould. I just sent you his contact number. Do you want me to do something about that post? Number, I got this. Thanks, Chief. What are you going to do? Bianca asked again after Daria hung up. To show them they've messed with the wrong person. Daria called up the RSIM of Bradley Gould on her laptop. Then, she got to work. 9 p.m. was the internet rush hour. A lot of people were glued to their phone screens after dinner. The trending post had been replaced by a new one, uploaded by Daria under her old account name of Daria Miller. A short message accompanied a photo, the candid shot sent by Regina to Daria. In it, Micah's sleeping face was captured in all its handsome detail, with Regina snuggled up against his broad shoulder. A date stamp was visible on the bottom left corner, which proved it was taken before the divorce. The message was succinct. Only a fool would continue to stay married to a man who clearly can't keep it in his pants. I welcome all who have the expertise to examine and verify the authenticity of the photo. Just as the millions of Zenith's official account followers were whipped into a frenzy, Daria dropped the second bombshell. Another photo with another message. For the current whereabouts of the Graf diamond ring, please consult Miss Felicia Kavanaugh. In the photo, Micah's sister was seen sitting at a baccarat table. Her face flushed. She was holding a flute of champagne in her left hand, with the pink diamond ring displayed prominently. The casino's official account was tagged in the post. Its management seized the opportunity for more publicity and replied with a post in minutes. Miss Felicia Kavanaugh, a valued customer, has pledged the Graf diamond ring as payment in lieu of the $2.1 million she owed the casino. She is welcome to redeem the ring any time with an object of equal value, or with a check of said amount. Along with the post was a shot of the contract Felicia, signed giving up the ring in exchange for her gambling debt to be forgiven. The contract was dated and notarized. The original accusation, along with Daria's clapback, plus the casino's statement, pushed the story to the top of the trending list. Netizens liked to think of themselves as smart and didn't appreciate being cheated, So when they realized that Zenith's original post made a fool out of them, they lashed out. Those who'd left abusive comments on Daria's account now direct their wrath at Zenith. I thought the Kavanaughs were rich. Why did Felicia have to pawn a ring to get herself out of casino debt? And it was her sister-in-law's wedding ring. That's pretty low, bro. Aren't you supposed to keep your wedding ring after divorce? Why is Daria's ring with the Kavanaughs? Did anyone forget Daria's first post? She left Micah because he cheated. I don't think she'd want to keep a cheater's ring. That broke my heart. I used to like Micah Kavanaugh, rich, handsome, successful, and I hear super smart. But I guess faithful is not one of his virtues. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Audio. I used to like Zenith products. Their Bluetooth headphone is the best. But now I don't think I want to buy products made by a cheater's company anymore. Yeah, upvote the previous post. Let's boycott the cheater's company and its products. P.S. My sister's ex-husband cheated on her, so I say death to all cheaters. Wente, yal, quay. Though the Kavanaughs held majority shareholding in Zenith, a small portion was released on the stock market for public investors. That share price had been doing a nosedive ever since Daria's post went viral, and showed no signs of stopping. Until it hit the limit down. At midnight, Micah stood in his home office, watching the stock report with a grim face. On another screen was the sweating face of his PR manager, Sydney Kane. Since Kane was roused out of bed just 2 minutes ago for this midnight video call, he was dressed in a blue and white pinstriped pajama top and a pair of gray slacks instead of his usual suit and tie. Who authorized you to publish that post? I didn't sign off on it. Zenith's account is to be used for official announcements only. Product launches, marketing campaigns, and so on. Who told you to post about my personal affairs? Kane bowed his head as he took the tongue lashing from the president. It was Mrs. Kavanaugh's idea. Daria. Micah frowned. She doesn't have access to the corporate account. No, not that Mrs. Kavanaugh. Mrs. Judy Kavanaugh, your mother. Sydney kept his eyes on the floor and mentally started updating his resume. He'd probably need to look for a new job soon. He would understand if President Kavanaugh decided to fire him for this unauthorized use of the corporate account. Personally, he agreed that it was bad taste to use an official account for private business, especially to air the boss's dirty laundry in public. But Judy was the boss's mother. It was not as if Sydney could say no to her. He was caught between a rock and a hard place, and Judy didn't give him the time to call Micah to ask for permission. Besides, Judy told him Micah had signed off on the post, which he now knew was a lie. Micah listened to the PR manager's explanation without a word, though the energetically popping vein in his forehead spoke volumes about his current mood. My mother doesn't work at Zenith. His voice was low, which made it all the more menacing. You should have come to me. Sydney mopped sweat from his face. I know. I'm sorry, Mr. President. I should have contacted you. But Judy waylaid him when he was on his way home and didn't let him go till he'd created and published that post under her orders. Micah's hands, resting by his sides, were balled into fists. What was done was done. The priority right now was damage control. He fixed his dark eyes on Sydney. I expect you to clean up this mess. You have 12 hours. If the post is still in the top trending position by then, consider yourself fired. Yes, Mr. President. I'll try my best. Thank you for. Micah ended the video call, then made another. Elliot answered his phone after 4 rings. The efficient assistant sounded awake and alert even though it was past midnight. Yes, boss. Micah updated him on the situation. Get in touch with the platform. Ask them to bump the post down. Yes, boss. Call me as soon as you have the result. Elliot called back 45 minutes later. Boss, there's a snag. Someone beat us to it. Their request to the platform is to bump up the post, not down. Mrs. Daria Miller's post is to remain at the top trending spot for another 72 hours. Call back. I give you carte blanche to offer them whatever amount they ask for. I tried doing just that. But the platform informed me that whatever we are offering, the other party will double it. Micah drummed his fingers on the desk. Who is it? Bradley Gould, CEO of Eminence. The showbiz company, Eminence, was so much more than just a showbiz company. It started off as a talent agency and eventually ventured into record production, event management, concert production, and music publishing. It was known for producing multiple Oscar and Grammy Award winners. But Daria was neither an actress nor a singer, as far as Micah knew. So why would the company help her? Did Mr. Gould give a reason? Micah asked. No, Elliot said. I tried contacting Mr. Gould. As it's now close to 2 a.m., I left him a voicemail. Got it. Micah ended the call, pushed to his feet, and started pacing in his home office. Daria and Bradley Gould. Could they know each other? But how? And why? Having dealt with social media platforms before, Micah was well aware of how much money it cost to manipulate the trending posts, either to keep one at the top or to remove it from the public eye. Why would Bradley Gould spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for Daria, knowing full well that he'd be going toe-to-toe against Zenith?